Hey everyone, my name is Alexandra and I am a watercolor artist. I live in the Okanagan and one of the things that I look forward to every year is all of the delicious fruit that we get. So to get us into the summer mood, grab your bright, colorful paints and we are going to paint some strawberries. For supplies today, we're going to be using Philosophy and Co's terrain palette. I'm using a combination of colors. It'll mostly be sourwood as well as the variation of green paints. For paintbrushes, I have 3 different brushes. I have Princeton round sizes 2, 6, and 8. For paint, I'm using 140-pound Arches cold press watercolor paper, a napkin for drying my paintbrushes, and lastly you guys will need 2 cups of water, 1 for clean and 1 for dirty water. So we are going to jump right into painting our strawberries. We're going to start by using our number 8 paintbrush, and I'm going to mix a color onto my palette. We're going to jump right in and paint our strawberries. Right away we're going to start with a really light layer. So I want you guys to go ahead and mix with your red colored paint, and we're going to be doing a wet on wet technique with quite a bit of this just so that we can get that nice variation in our strawberries. So I'm going to start on my page. We're just going to paint a collection of them. So I'll start with my first one here, and I'm going to paint a strawberry shape on here. So what we're going for is kind of like a teardrop shape, but with a rounded bottom rather than it coming to a point. And as you guys know, strawberries come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, so you guys do not need to be too picky about this. But as soon as I paint that, I want to work really quickly, and I'm going to go in with my brighter red, and I just want to paint it onto the left half of it. And I'm just gonna let it bleed into the rest of what I've painted. And we're doing this just so we get some nice variation in color. I can go in, I'm just drying my brush and I'm just gonna mix that in a little bit better. And now continuing while it's still wet, just because I really like the very loose look when painting these, I'm actually gonna go straight ahead and add my green leaves and stems. So I'm going into my vine leaf green here, or sorry, that's balsam mixed with a bit of vine leaf. I switched to my number 6 paintbrush just because I want a little bit more definition here. And I am gonna go ahead and paint in my leaves. So tip of my paintbrush is down and I'm pulling back and just connecting it to the center of the strawberry. So I'm applying pressure as I pull back and making it's really fun, really loose leaves. We're gonna add a little bit more detail as we go along, but I kind of like the look when the colors sort of bleed into each other a bit more, and as it dries, we'll add some more to it that will just really make everything stand out. So with this exact same concept that we're doing, we're gonna continue and add in some more strawberries. So if I want to, I can even mix just a touch of orange into my red. So starting with that really watered down paint, we're gonna go in and paint our next strawberry. I'm gonna angle it a little bit differently this time. Now, because I'm working relatively quickly, I can paint more than one strawberry at once if I want, as long as I'm making sure to add everything while it's still wet. So I'm getting in that kind of, I think an egg shape might be a better way to describe it, because it's got sort of that rounded tip at the bottom and it's wider wherever the base is. And then I'm going to add in my red shading. And for this case, I'm going to keep all of that shading on the left-hand side, just so that it's very consistent with all of these, and it's kind of towards the left and around to the bottom, so that it looks like the sunlight is coming down from the top right side. So now we'll just keep going, and we're just going to cover our page in strawberries. It's okay if you start with the paint quite a bit lighter, because we're going to add in that second layer using the wet on wet technique. So now I can go ahead and add in this nice vibrant red. And I'll just let it bleed and sort of do its thing there. So now we're gonna switch back to our number 6 brush. And if you guys need to pause at any time during this tutorial to go back and just slow things down, feel free to do that. I know we're moving quickly, which is one of the things with watercolor. When you're doing a lot of the wet on wet technique, you don't have a ton of time to stop and wait for things to dry or to take your time. You move relatively quickly. So the other thing that you guys can do is paint just one strawberry at a time to really focus on adding each layer. Now as I add these leaves in, I'm just doing kind of curly shaped leaves, putting the tip of my paintbrush down, applying pressure as I pull back. This one was a little bit dry when I started painting on it, but that is okay. So tip of my paintbrush is down, and I'm just curling those leaves in towards the center, knowing that it is okay if that green mixes in with the red paint. So for this one that I painted on that was a little bit dry, as well as this one here, I can actually just wet my paintbrush and go in and just blend out that color. Now I don't want to do this too much because you'll find that you'll get some rings in your painting, but I am okay with it because we are going to add some more details as we go that can cover any of that up if needed. All right, so I think we're just going to paint one more large strawberry up at the top, and then we're going to fill our page with some other things just to make it look really fun and really full. So I'm starting with that watered down red again. And now we're adding our brighter red primarily to the left side. And now I've switched to my number 6 paintbrush, so while that's still damp, I'm going to go in with that mixture of the vine leaf and balsam green, and putting the tip of my brush down. Didn't have quite enough water on there, so we'll add a bit more. I'm applying pressure in sort of a wavy line as I come back towards my strawberry. So now that we have some strawberries on our page, I just want to add some more things to this to make it look really fun. So first things first, we are going to add some big leaves into our painting just to make it look really nice and full and kind of like it's on a strawberry bush, but not quite. So we're going for a little bit more of a pattern here. I'm going to use my large paintbrush again and mixing my green on my palette. So I'm actually just going to pick up because I have a little bit too much red paint at the bottom of my palette there. I'm just going to clean some of it up because I'm finding it's mixing with my green more than I want. All right, so now I can go into my green paint and we're just going to paint some really big leaves. I want to give them sort of those jagged edges that often you see on strawberry bushes. So starting with the tip of my brush down, I'm doing the same thing that I did with my smaller leaves, but as I pull back, I'm going to lift my brush and just start that same process again and work my way down to get these nice kind of jagged edges to my leaf. And then I can leave some white space in the middle, sort of acting as that vein of the leaf. So I might do a little cluster of leaves here. So I'll do another one following the same concept where I keep adding my brush, working on getting those jagged edges and then leaving that white space in the center to act as the vein of the leaf. And now I'm going to do a little branch or a little leaf stem to connect these two. So we'll do one big leaf at the top here, and I'm just continuing with that exact same concept. It's nice to use a bigger brush for these and make sure that you have enough water and paint, because then you'll find that you can really let the water do the work and you're not just drawing the outside and trying to fill it in. So do a little stem off that one. Now we're going to add another leaf on the side here. Now if you guys want to see a more detailed and in-depth tutorial on how to get sort of these really loose looking, kind of more jagged leaves, then leave a comment below and I would love to show you guys. So we're going to do another stem off that one. And then I'm going to stick one more leaf up here. So this is another design that sometimes if I want, I will tape off the edge of my paper and then I'll bring the design fully to the edges and you can get a really fun, really cute sort of summery pattern that you can use either for cards or prints or whatever you'd like. Okay. So now that that's done, we have our strawberries, our leaves. For our strawberries, we need to add our little seeds in now. So you guys can kind of decide how you want to do this. I'm going to use a really dark red for this. Depending on what look I'm going for my strawberry, sometimes I will take my white pen and just add little dots into it as well. But in this case, I'm just gonna mix up a dark red. I'm using my number 2 brush. So I'm gonna go into my sourwood, and to get it really dark, I sort of had a mixture of colors at the bottom of my palette here, meaning that I do need to clean it at some point. But if you guys wanna make your red darker, what you could do is mix in either a tiny bit of blue or a tiny bit of blue and green into it, and you'll be able to get that nice deep red. So in our strawberries, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna just paint the little seeds in. So I'm using my brush, and I'm just adding tiny little lines, and we're working our way all the way up. So sort of angling it with the angle of the strawberry. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue this process for all of my strawberries that I have. Now at this point in your painting, you guys could leave it here, you could leave it as is, but I'm going to show you guys, if you want to go a little further and add some more detail, I'm going to show you guys a few different things that you can do. So to start this, we're going to start with our leaves. I'm continuing with my number 2 brush, and I'm going to mix more of a paste consistency of my paint. And going into my leaves, I am just going to add sort of the vein of the leaf as well as some more detail coming up. So I painted a very skinny line coming down the center, and now I'm just painting really loose lines coming up towards the outside of the leaf, and I can sort of match them up with those jagged edges that I created. So with the idea of using sort of a tone on tone, I'm using the exact same green that I had before, but I'm making it more pigmented, more opaque. You get this really delicate look that just makes them so much more fun and stand out, but it's a really easy way to add detail to your leaves without doing anything too crazy to them. So painting that really skinny line stem all the way down, and then painting the little veins. And you'll notice with the veins too, none of my lines are straight. I'm keeping everything really loose, really fluid. So right away you guys can see how much that elevates the paintings and just brings the leaves to life. So now that we've done that, we're gonna do kind of a similar thing by adding detail to our strawberry leaves as well. And I'm gonna use that same paint mix that I made. So I have it a little bit more like a paste, and starting from the tip of each leaf on the strawberries, I'm just going to add in that darker paint. And it's almost as if I'm partially outlining the leaves, but not fully. So I'm dragging my paintbrush down to follow the shape of each leaf that I have, but I'm not fully painting it in. I'm just doing this little bit of line work to give it some life. So starting from the tip, I'm just doing a few strokes coming down, following the shape. If I want, I can even add another leaf that's over top of my strawberry. And we're just painting those lines coming down, adding that really subtle detail. And you notice how subtle it is because I'm using this tone on tone technique by painting with the exact same green that I painted my strawberries with. All right, and we're gonna go into our last strawberry here. Just adding that detail, that little bit of definition. All right, and that is it. Here you guys have some beautiful summery strawberries. You guys can see that as soon as we added just those small details, how much more everything stood out. And this is something that is so fun to either use. You could just paint a couple strawberries and do it on something like a print or a card, or as I mentioned before, you can make your full page a pattern with them. Thank you guys so much for following along. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Alexandra Victoria Studio. This really helps me as I continue to make tutorials for you guys. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.